Academics have discussed back and forth how a favourable view and self-image of history and identity can affect immigrants and refugees. People let stereotypes or images take over their minds and create complete fear and hate towards races of people. This issue has existed for hundreds of years and still does today, and it leaves people feeling displaced and a lack of belonging. Let me tell you a story about my mother's great-grandfather, Johann Friedrich Behrens, and his journey to New Zealand from Germany. Johann Friedrich Behrens was born in the small village of Hillienberg in Hanover in 1849 on the bark Columbus, which arrived at Leamington Harbour near Christchurch on the 2nd of September 1873. Being a foreigner, he wasn't always respected and sometimes underestimated. After years of being unsettled, he finally belonged, until the dreaded date of 1915. During that time, World War I had broken out, and Johann Friedrich, as a German, faced considerable harassment. Stones were reportedly thrown at the hotel in 1915, breaking windows and damaging property. Those that knew him spoke of him in a kind and upstanding character, but that did not mean a thing once the war started. On top of this unfair and unjust harassment, many law enforcement personnel considered foreigners to be enemy spies. During this period, and Germans were a great target. This meant that Johann, an elderly man by this time, had to report to the nearest police station every week for the rest of his life. This consistent persecution carried on until he died in 1918, despite the fact his sons William Edward and John Frederick were fighting overseas representing New Zealand in the World War. Here we have Julia Hobby and Anne-Marie Boyd, his great-granddaughters, and their remembrance of him and their experience with immigration.
Well, I didn't know him, but I remember my grandmother, his daughter, talked about him a lot. She was obviously very fond of her father. She said that he came out from Germany because he didn't want to fight for the Kaiser. This is way back, long before, this is back in the 1800s. He was pacifist, so he came out to New Zealand and married an Irish girl, and he got a rather hard time. He had to go and report to the police every day, tell him where he was, what he was doing, and it made life, and I think my grandmother was very upset because she said he was a very peaceful man, he didn't want to fight at all. I think this happens every time there's a war between people, different people. They can be fine getting along, and as soon as someone whips up a frenzy or a hate or these people, it changes. It always says that, oh, it's religion or race, but in actual fact, most people don't feel that until they're told to feel that. Yeah.
See, I was 89, I was a decade earlier than Anne-Marie for immigration, and I did notice it probably more than she did. I had more of I came over and did accent firstly, which is okay, make fun of your accent like they don't have one. The other thing I think was I got told several times I had taken an Australian's job.
Absolutely. I think, particularly if you look at Muslim Arabs, and there's the big T above their head, and
lately seen with the Syrians.
Yeah, and 99.9% of them just want a better life, want a safer life. It's still a big, big step. How are these people do it when they can't speak the language, when everything's so foreign and different? And I wonder they look to their own.
I wonder they have their own communities.
They have to feel a little bit of security. And it's.
And I would imagine our grandfather would have felt extremely displaced.
There wouldn't have been that many. He would have been better off going to somewhere like Adelaide, where it was big German settlement,
rather than New Zealand. It was just would have been so hard for him. And people want to live in Sydney. I'm an immigrant that wanted to come to Sydney for multiculturalism. I am one immigrant that wouldn't have. I would have definitely not thought about other places.
I think that's what I like. One of the things I like about Australia so much is because it's Sydney particularly,
and Melbourne,
Sydney particularly because it is so diverse. I just love it. I just think it is wonderful, and it makes magic when everyone's together from different places.
I agree.
Yes.